When you have a head injury, you can't stress that person. So depending on where he's at in recovery, they have to break it to him slowly. So if you're hearing that he doesn't know exactly what's happening, it's because that's doctor's orders. Any type of stress that he goes through, anything that causes him sadness, anger, grief, or any of those things can actually set him back mentally. He's gonna be in like this state of fog, and when you already have PTSD, you already have trauma caked in, and now you're adding another traumatic event to the brain. It's a perfect storm for all types of bad things to happen.
I didn't like the ribbing, I didn't like the joking, and anybody that talked to me that I didn't think was worthy of having that kind of aggressive conversation, they got that word. And, I don't know the full story, but I do know what I saw. And it looked like he wasn't smart to what was going on. And the dude that was messing with him bit off more than he can chew.
The ambulance got there and they rushed him to the hospital. He lost the majority of his teeth. He was unconscious. They had to medically induce coma because of the swelling in his brain. If you're on our YouTube channel right now, there is a link to the GoFundMe if you want to help support Syko Stu's recovery. Again, I don't say he was completely innocent in all this, but he's most definitely the victim. Raja Jackson, Rampage Jackson's son, should never, ever have been anywhere near a pro wrestling ring, should not have been invited into the ring. And AJ...
This wasn't wrestling. This wasn't entertainment. This was real violence in front of children, in front of families. Roger Jackson, the son of UFC legend Quinton Rampage Jackson, didn't just break character. He broke a man, and the footage that leaked from California shocked the entire fight world. But here's the twist. Roger bragged beforehand that it wouldn't be scripted, that he was going in for blood. And once you hear what happened backstage, you'll understand why this night is being called one of the darkest moments in combat sports history. Stay until the end, because the fallout isn't just about Roger. It's about the UFC itself, and whether legacies can survive when family lines turn toxic.
Before y'all judge me any further, just please let me fucking explain. Ready? That's a receipt, bitch. That's all the fuck I told Roger to do. Now my fucking life is ruined over your lie. I am not responsible for what another grown-ass man decides to do.
It started like any other small-time show, a Knox Pro Wrestling event in California. Fans packed the seats, expecting cheap beer, wild theatrics, and scripted chaos. But what they got was a nightmare. Stuart Smith, better known by his stage name Syko Stu, stepped into the ring to play his part. What he didn't know was that Roger Jackson wasn't there to play. On live stream, Roger had already made his intentions clear. He told viewers this wasn't going to be scripted. "I'm gonna hit him as many times as I can," he warned. At the time, some thought it was just bravado, trash talk, the usual hype before the bell. But when the lights hit and the crowd roared, Roger snapped.
We get some content together for you guys, and we working on some big things. I wish I can get a write-up. We get some content together for you guys, and we working on some big things. I wish I can get a write-up.
Instead of pulling staged punches, he shot for a takedown. He slammed Syko Stu onto the canvas with full force. And then came the barrage. More than 20 unprotected punches to the face of a defenseless man. No choreography, no theatrics, just raw, uncontrolled violence. The crowd's cheers turned to screams. Parents shielded their kids' eyes. Fans who had come for spectacle realized they were watching a crime unfold in real time. Cameras caught every second. Twitter exploded within minutes. This wasn't a botched move. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was Roger Jackson trying to hurt somebody and nearly succeeding. When the bell rang, it wasn't to end a match. It was to stop an assault. Staff swarmed the ring. Police were called. Stuart Smith was stretchered out, unconscious, bloodied, and broken. Doctors later confirmed the damage: fractures to his face, shattered teeth, trauma to both jaws. The kind of injuries you don't just walk off. And here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Friends of Smith said flat out, if nobody had stopped it, Roger would have killed him. That's how bad it was. Think about that for a second. In a space built on trust, where performers give each other their bodies, knowing the other will protect them, Roger broke that sacred code. He didn't just blur the line between reality and showmanship. He crossed it. News outlets replayed the footage on loop. MMA personalities weighed in, calling it everything from a meltdown to attempted murder. And within hours, the narrative shifted. This wasn't just about Syko Stu. This was about Roger's bloodline, about being Rampage Jackson's son, and whether carrying that name made the moment even worse. The MMA and wrestling communities were instantly divided. Some called Roger a hot-headed rookie who couldn't control his temper. Others labeled him a straight-up criminal. What nobody could deny was that this wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a breaking point. Even veterans admitted it was hard to watch. Dylan Dannies said the attack shattered the sacred trust of wrestling. Brendan Schaub admitted he tried to defend Roger until he saw the footage and realized it was indefensible. And when Roger's own father, Rampage Jackson, publicly admitted he couldn't excuse his son's actions, the gravity of the situation hit harder than any punch. The internet did what it always does. Memes, outrage, viral clips shared millions of times, and fans kept asking the same question. Was this the night a future star was born? Or the night a young fighter destroyed his career before it even began? What do you think? Was this just a rookie losing control? Or was it something much darker? Should Roger Jackson face prison time for what happened? Or does he deserve a shot at redemption? Let me know in the comments, because the debate isn't slowing down anytime soon. This was more than a fight gone wrong. It was a warning about what happens when lines blur, when legacy turns into pressure, and when rage takes center stage. And if you think this story is over, you're wrong, because the fallout has only just begun. If you believe combat sports needs accountability, hit subscribe, because in the next video, we're exposing the scandal nobody saw coming, the one that could change the UFC forever. It's the nightmare no UFC legend ever prepares for. Not a knockout loss, not a broken contract, but watching the name you built, your family name, dragged through the mud by your own son. That's exactly what happened to Quinton Rampage Jackson, one of the most feared fighters in MMA history. And the way it unfolded left even his biggest fans speechless. But stay with me, because the real scandal here isn't just about violence in a wrestling ring. It's about a father torn apart by loyalty, legacy, and the brutal weight of public shame. And before this story ends, you'll see why Rampage's reaction may have changed the fight world forever. When Roger Jackson's violent outburst went viral, all eyes turned to his father. Rampage had been a symbol of controlled chaos for years. A man who fought legends like Chuck Liddell and Wanderlei Silva. A man who brought charisma, power, and grit to the octagon. But now, he wasn't Rampage the warrior. He was Rampage the father. A father whose son was being branded a criminal. And when Rampage finally spoke, he didn't defend his son. He couldn't. On a live stream, his face heavy with exhaustion, Rampage admitted the truth. He said Roger had crossed a line. He told fans he wouldn't excuse it. And in a moment that stunned the MMA community, he even wished to personally apologize to the victim, Syko Stu. Imagine that, a UFC legend begging forgiveness not for a fight, but for a son. But this is where the story twisted. Because the MMA world didn't just stop at Rampage's apology. No, the controversy spiraled, with every voice in the fight game weighing in. Mark Henry, one of wrestling's most respected veterans, dropped a bombshell take. He claimed that Syko Stu had provoked Roger earlier in the day by smashing a beer can over his head during the show. He bit off more than he could chew, Henry said, suggesting the beating was partly Stu's fault. That comment split fans right down the middle. Some nodded in agreement, saying wrestling stunts can push buttons too far. Others were furious, accusing Henry of victim, blaming and downplaying an assault caught on camera. And just when the fire seemed hot enough, more fighters threw gasoline on it. Dylan Danny's, never one to hold back, called Roger's actions pathetic and said he broke the sacred trust of wrestling, a trust that performers protect each other even when the violence looks real. Brendan Schaub echoed the same, blasting Roger as a coward for turning performance into attempted assault. The voices clashed, fans clashed. One side saw a provoked young man snapping. The other saw an unhinged attack that could have ended in tragedy. And caught in the middle was Rampage himself, staring down a legacy he never imagined. Because here's the real question: where does accountability begin? Does it start with Roger alone, with Stu for provoking? With a culture of wrestling that blurs lines between fiction and reality? Or does it haunt Rampage too? This is where things cut deeper. Rampage's entire career was built on a brand of violence. He was the Rampage fans came to see, a man who smashed doors, slammed opponents, and entertained millions. And now his son was being accused of doing the same, but outside the boundaries of sport. Was this just coincidence, or was Roger carrying the shadows of his father's legacy? Think about it. How much of our identity comes from the names we inherit? How much pressure builds when you're raised in the shadow of a legend? Roger wasn't just a fighter's son. He was Rampage's son, and in one horrifying night, that legacy snapped into chaos. But here's where it gets even worse. While fans debated blame and motive, rumors began swirling that this scandal could permanently damage Rampage's standing with the UFC, with promoters, and even with future opportunities in entertainment. After all, in today's world, headlines move fast, and to casual fans, nuance doesn't matter. The only thing they'll remember: Rampage Jackson's son tried to kill a man in a wrestling ring. So let me ask you, who do you think carries the real weight of this disaster? Roger alone, or does Rampage, by blood and legacy, share the fallout too? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see where you stand, because this isn't just a story about one violent act. It's about legacy colliding with accountability. It's about fathers, sons, and the price of carrying a name that was once unstoppable. And if you believe the fight world needs to face these uncomfortable truths, hit that subscribe button. Because in the next video, we're going to expose the part of this story nobody saw coming. The scandal that could shake the UFC at its very core. It should have been the end. A career crushed before it even began. After Roger Jackson's brutal attack went viral, fans assumed his name was finished, erased from the fight world forever. But what happened next shocked everyone. Instead of disappearing in disgrace, Roger's story only grew bigger and far more dangerous. Stay until the end, because the real twist isn't just about whether Roger fights again. It's about how controversy itself has become the most powerful currency in combat sports, and the fallout may change everything. Within hours of the incident, Knox Pro Wrestling made their stance crystal clear. Roger was banned, not suspended, not fined, banned for life. A move that fans applauded as justice, a line drawn in the sand. The message seemed simple. There's no place in wrestling for unchecked violence that crosses into reality. Clips of their announcement spread like wildfire, paired with footage of Roger's attack. To many, it felt like closure. Case closed, the villain exiled, but then, the shocker, just days later, another promotion, Danger Pro, made headlines of their own. They announced they were planning to book Roger Jackson. Yes, The same man accused of turning performance into assault. The same man being investigated by police. In the eyes of Danger Pro, Roger wasn't untouchable. He was marketable. The internet exploded. Was this redemption or exploitation? Some fans saw a chance for Roger to rebuild, provided he got therapy, anger management, and strict oversight. Others were outraged, calling Danger Pro's move a shameless cash grab, exploiting trauma and blood for ticket sales. Social media split in two, with hashtags like #BanRoger trending alongside #SecondChanceRoger. But here's the catch. Roger's story wasn't just about promoters and fans. It was about the law. The LAPD confirmed they were investigating the attack. And if charges stuck, Roger wasn't just facing suspension. He was staring down up to 10 years behind bars. Suddenly, his entire future hung in limbo. Would he be remembered as a dangerous hothead who belonged in prison, or as a young man who lost control once, but found a way back? The debate wasn't just emotional. It was cultural, because this scandal tore open a wound that combat sports have hidden for decades. The blurred line between performance and reality. Wrestling thrives on spectacle, on chaos, on making fans question, is this real? But Roger's assault forced the audience to confront an uncomfortable answer. Yes, this was real, too real, for fans in the crowd that night, children, families. It was no longer entertainment, it was trauma. 1 second, cheers, the next, screams. A man unconscious, bleeding, stretchered out. And the footage didn't just trend, it seared into people's memories. The line had been crossed, and once crossed, it couldn't be ignored. And that's why the fallout feels so heavy. This isn't just about Roger Jackson. It's about every fighter, every wrestler, every promoter who profits off the spectacle of controlled violence. If the control fails, if one man snaps, does the system share the blame? Or does the weight fall only on the shoulders of Roger himself? Think about the stakes. If Roger gets a second chance and something happens again, who will fans blame? The promotion that booked him, the father whose shadow he grew up in, or the fans themselves for feeding into the hype of a redemption arc? The truth is, Roger's career teeters on a razor's edge. Redemption or ruin, fame or infamy. The next chapter could see him cheered as a villain who reinvented himself, or condemned as proof that combat sports have lost their moral compass. And here's the most haunting question of all. Was this the night a new star was born? A man so infamous, controversy keeps him relevant. Or was it the night Roger Jackson destroyed his future forever? What do you think? Should Roger ever step foot in a ring again? Or should this story end behind bars? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear your take. Because one thing is undeniable. This scandal has left scars not just on a victim's face, but on an entire industry. And if you believe the fight world must learn from this, hit subscribe. Because the next video will uncover how far promotions are willing to go when profit comes before safety,